Now, other investigations you want to know is to see the thickness, to see the involvement of the other adjacent organs. You can do CT, MRI of the pelvis. What can be the differential diagnosis of the CA endometrium? One is senile endometritis, like in old age women, that is senile changes are there in endometrium. It breaks and bleeds, sometimes causing spotting. There may not be any malignant changes. It is called as senile endometrium. There is no actual infection. It is a breaking of the endometrial lining which causes spotting. So that is a senile endometritis. Second is genital tuberculosis. That also can be present in any age group and can cause spotting. Then third is endometrial hyperplasia is there, but not the malignant changes. So it can be one of the differential diagnosis. And any other causes which lead to postmenopausal bleeding, like foreign body or unopposed estrogen treatment, like ERT or estrogen replacement therapy or HRT, hormone replacement therapy, or sometimes some small cervical polyp is there which is causing postmenopausal bleeding. Urethral caruncle, it is very common in postmenopausal ladies around up to 50s. Then CA cervix, that also presents rarely in postmenopausal age group, but it can present with a postmenopausal bleeding. So all causes of postmenopausal bleeding are taken in differential diagnosis of CA endometrium. Now, you have to screen to diagnose the CA endometrium early, because you know very well if any cancer, if it is detected in early stage, there are good chances of patient survival, or the prognosis is always good. If you screen for endometrial cancer, definitely it will give you better results as far as the patient's prognosis is concerned. So routine screening of all asymptomatic patients who are taking estrogen or HRT. HRT may have started for something else, but their endometrium should be done so that even if the malignant changes occur, they will be detected in time and you will be able to treat it properly. So all patients who are taking HRT should be screened for CA endometrium. Then perimenopausal women who are having abnormal menstrual pattern like menometrorrhagia, you have to investigate, you have to do transvaginal sonography, you have to take the biopsy and rule out malignancy. You should not say that as the menopause is nearing, she is having menorrhagia, just forget it. You can't do that. You have to screen them. All women with postmenopausal, even if it is small spotting, you have to do PV examination, transvaginal sonography, ultrasonography, and fecal biopsy, that is endometrial sampling. Sometimes only aspiration cytology of the endometrial fluid can be done. And just now I told you about the fractional curettage or hysteroscopy guided biopsy, that also can be done whenever you suspect it. So screening plays an important role in case of CA endometrium as far as the management is concerned or the prognosis is concerned. Now, we have seen the grading which is decided by FIGO. Now here comes the staging. Grading is depending upon the changes. Now here the staging, what is important? Stage 1, it is divided into A, B and C. Here the cancer is only limited to the body of the uterus. 1A is tumor is limited only to the endometrium. B is it has gone into the myometrium but less than half of the thickness. And C is has gone into the myometrium but beyond 50% of the myometrial thickness. So that is a stage 1. Now stage 2, here the tumor involves the cervix also, but it does not go beyond the uterus. It doesn't go on to vagina. So the endometrium coming down up to the cervix comes under stage 2. Again it is A and B. A is endocervix, B is a stroma of the cervix. Now coming to stage 3, there is local and regional spread of CA endometrium. 3A is tumor involves the serosa and it spreads to the adnexa like tube, ovary or the ligaments of uterus and all. 3B, it is present, it has come down to the vagina So vaginal metastasis, which you can see on perspiculum examination very well. 3C, different distant nodes are palpable. It becomes 3C. And 4, this tumor is widespread. It goes to other organs like bladder, rectum, or anything. So stage 1, 2, 3, 4, all are divided into A, B, and C. So that is the staging which decides the mode of management of CA cervix, and that is why it is important. Normally, stage 1, you do the total abdominal hysterectomy with bilateral salpingo-oophorectomy. Can you see this slide? I hope it is visible. So treatment is total abdominal hysterectomy with bilateral salpingo-oophorectomy. This is usually done in a grade 1, grade 2 cases, but staging is 1. If it has gone to stage 2, still it can be done hysterectomy, bilateral salpingo-oophorectomy, but you have to take the lymph nodes for sampling. When it goes beyond that, then you need the palliative surgeries in a stage 3 and 4. Here is the repetition. The cases of simple hyperplasia which develops into malignancy is chances are 20%. Just now I told you whenever the endometrium is thick, you have done the sampling of endometrium, your histopathological report is simple endometrial hyperplasia, which is many times seen in perimenopausal women. But please remember, you have to keep the follow-up of this thick endometrium, because high chances, that is 10 to 20% chances are there that she might develop CA endometrium afterwards. So that is one. If suppose that hyperplasia is showing some atypia also, then the chances are very high, that is 60 to 70%, that she can develop into malignancy. And many times we advise her hysterectomy if she is not reliable for regular follow-up. Now stage 0, endometrial hyperplasia. So it is a stage 0 where endometrium is only hyperplastic. Then here you are doing the abdominal hysterectomy, and it is the ideal treatment if the young females are there who are presenting with this. Then afterwards you can supply medroxyprogesterone therapy to them. Mirena IUCD, which contains progesterone, you know very well, Emily or Mirena, where it is a copper-T-like device, it releases progesterone regularly, that will counteract the action of unopposed estrogen on the endometrium, and that will help to decrease the endometrial hyperplasia and help in the treatment of stage 0, that is only endometrial hyperplasia. So that can be a treatment. In a young patient, you may not advise hysterectomy directly. According to that chart, stage 1A, just now I told you, it is limited to endometrium, not gone into the myometrium, very low risk patient. Here total abdominal hysterectomy along with bilateral salpingo-oophorectomy is sufficient, no node dissection required, nothing. Stage 1B, it is having little extra risk because it has invaded into the myometrium, and here the myometrium may be involved more and you need the hysterectomy, and there are chances that lymphatic invasion may be there, so you have to take the lymph node sampling in these cases. Now coming to stage 2, preoperative radiotherapy followed by hysterectomy is important whenever it is stage 2. What is stage 2? Just now I told you, it has gone beyond the uterus, and then there are chances that lymph nodes are involved. So first you give some radiotherapy and then post that patient for abdominal hysterectomy with salpingo-oophorectomy. Stage 3 is an advanced case. These advanced diseases is not suitable for surgery, and in these cases you give chemotherapy also and radiotherapy also, plus progesterone injections play important role in them. So medroxyprogesterone injections are available, which are given them weekly. Now coming to the survival rate. Naturally, like any other malignancy, Stage 1 malignancy or stage 1 of CA endometrium will have 75%, that is good survival rate. If it has gone to stage 2, it decreases to 55%. 3 is having only 30%, while stage 4 has bad prognosis, hardly 10% chances of survival are there. Now something about the sarcoma of the uterus along with the CA endometrium, because the uterine carcinoma is of two types. One is arising from the endometrium, which we have seen up till now is a CA endometrium, while other is a sarcoma of uterus, which can arise from the serosal layer. So these are the rare tumors. They comprise only 4.5% of total uterine malignancies. 0.5% of fibroids undergo sarcomatous changes and form a sarcoma, especially in menopausal age. So big fibroids, even if having no complaints and even if the lady is postmenopausal, we tell them to get it removed, because there are chances that these fibroids can grow and can change into sarcoma and afterwards can cause problem. So sarcomatous changes common in fibroid. So 0.5% of fibroids only get these changes. Now what is the common age group? Again postmenopausal, 40 to 60, more common. Rarely in young ages this carcinoma is seen, these sarcomas are seen. 8% of sarcomas occur in women who have received radiation for some other malignancy. So suppose she is having some fibroid, she has received some radiation which causes changes in the pathology of that fibroid, which leads to change into sarcoma. Okay, what are different varieties of this uterine sarcoma? Intramural, they arise from myometrium, then mucosal, which develop from the endometrium, and sarcomatous changes in pre-existing fibroids, that is another. Rarely grape-like tumors are seen or sarcomas are seen near the cervix. Intramural is the most common one. Histologically, these tumors may be round cell tumors, spindle cell tumor, or mixed cell tumor, or sometimes giant cell tumors are also seen. And mostly these sarcomas, if they have arisen from fibroid, they are called as leiomyosarcomas. The cut surface of sarcoma shows irregular hemorrhagic surface, which is having rolled appearance like myoma. It is friable, soft, margins are not clear, invasion is seen into the surrounding myometrium. If suppose it is mucosal pattern, it projects in towards the uterine cavity like a polyp. So this is one of the nice slide which is showing the sarcoma which is protruding from the myometrium towards the endometrial cavity. This is a histological picture of leiomyosarcoma, because few of the myometrial cells are seen there. So that is why it is a leiomyosarcoma. The same slide again. What about metastasis of this sarcoma? Relatively, the metastases are very early compared to CA endometrium. It occurs via blood also, lymphatics, or direct spread to the surrounding organs. It can occur. Lymphatic nodes are palpable in 35% of the cases in stage 1 and stage 2. Commonly, para-aortic lymph nodes are involved in 15% cases. Direct spread into the peritoneal cavity also can lead to multiple metastases and ascites in the peritoneal cavity. So these are the different modes of spread of that sarcoma. How the patient will present in sarcoma? Profuse irregular vaginal bleeding, which is painful because big mass is there in endometrial cavity. 60% patients may have fever due to degenerative changes or the infection of that organ mass. Then rapid enlargement of the tumor usually occurs due to sarcoma. So if you have seen the patient regularly, you can definitely notice the enlargement of the size or enlargement of the uterus. How will you treat the sarcoma? Panhysterectomy, omentectomy, and its histopathology you have to see, because many tumors are having local metastasis in the peritoneal cavity and omentum. Debulking of the metastasis foci, the debulking of the big mass is done, and after that you give radiation therapy, which gives better results. Chemotherapy of VAC combination, it can reduce the recurrence rate of that sarcoma, and 5-year cure ratio is less than 30%. So these sarcoma are having poor prognosis compared to endometrial carcinomas. Other is a grape-like sarcoma. They are called as Batroid tumors. That's okay, just to mention it. This is one of the slide which is showing that sarcoma, which is protruding towards the endometrial cavity from the myometrium. Okay, thank you. So this finishes the topic of endometrial malignancy, uterine malignancy, which comprise of endometrial carcinoma and sarcoma. Thank you.